All right, welcome back to the program. Johnson Chukwu, the Chief Executive Officer at Cowry Asset Management, is joining me right now virtually from Lagos. Mr. Chukwu, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Chukwu, I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, okay, can you hear me
yes,
now?
I can hear you now. So how are you doing
Yeah,
today?
I'm good, and you?
I'm well, I'm great. Should I take these smiles, that these smiles are coming because Nigeria's economy exited the recession? Have we spoken since then?
No, we have not.
Oh,
We've not spoken since Nigeria exited the recession, but I mean, all of us feel a sense of excitement that we're out of recession. I mean, the psychological relief that the economy is no longer in the deep throw, but has come out and has evened out. It's a source of excitement for most Nigerians.
would you think most Nigerians, as attributed from you now, would share those smiles which you had on earlier, or would share those positive sentiments? Because Nigerians have told, at least a lot of people that I've interacted with, have said, Nancy, there's no difference. The economy has always been in a recession for as long as I know, because we can't feel it. There are no jobs. Youth unemployment is high. Unemployment is high. The misery index is over 70%. Inflation is high. Food prices are their highest. So what's there to smile about or even to be happy about?
Okay, Nancy, they have some strong logic in what they are saying, but that does not take away the fact that you were declining and now you have evened out. So you are no longer going down the deep throw. You have come out, and in as much as you're not yet feeling the impact of, because you're not growing at the rate that is equal to your population growth rate. But it is worse. It would have been worse if we are still in a recession and therefore the economy is declining. You know, when the economy is in a recession, it's contracting. What that means is that the volume of goods produced is contracting, getting smaller and smaller. It's a different thing from when you're saying, let me put it this way, you have 10 oranges to share, and then you are sharing that 10 oranges to 20 people, so each person gets half. But now, instead of 10 oranges, you are now sharing 9 oranges. So you can no longer get half to the 20 people. But now what we're saying, that the economy has gone back to where you can share 10 oranges, each person is getting half. Nobody's getting a full orange, which is maybe the ideal, that each person should at least take one orange in a day, but you're not getting an orange in a day, you're getting half. So you're not satisfied. But it's worse if the situation is such that we are now getting 1/4 of an orange, or instead of getting half. So we are moved from where the economy, the volume of goods, the monetary value of goods and services produced in the country was declining to a point where we could say it has evened out, because the third quarter GDP was just a growth of 0.11%. We can call it a marginal growth. But it's better than where we had a contraction of 3.62% in the third quarter, or a contraction of 6.1% in the second quarter. So it's a better situation, in as much as people are not yet feeling the impact. You can only feel the impact when the GDP begins to grow at a rate that's higher than population growth. And it will take some time before the inclusive nature of that, if the growth is inclusive and it begins to trickle down to almost everybody.
What would you say about this administration's drive to get us out of recession? This recession was not as prolonged as the 2016 recession, but this is an administration that is fighting, or that is plagued with a lot of, the macroeconomic numbers aren't looking good on almost on every side. This is an economy, or this is an administration that is faced with stagflation. This is an economy that is faced right now with almost the highest food prices in over a decade. This is also an administration that, if you check the numbers, I said it on the show, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, that if you check the numbers, Nigerians have grown poorer. Nigerians are poorer within the years of Buhari's administration. So is there a way that this administration can bounce back with its policies or what have you, you know? I don't know, are there still models? Are there still some things that can be done? Go ahead, Mr. Chukwu.
Okay, if I'm not a soothsayer, but if the past 6 years are anything to go by, I do not think economic performance will be one of the hallmarks of the current administration by the time they end their tenure. We've done almost 6 years of the current administration. And like you said, if you look at the GDP performance in those 6 years, in 2015, when they came into power, the GDP grew by 2.79%. And that was a period when they governed for like 7 months or 6 months of that year. The next year, which was 2016, the GDP contracted by 1.58%. 2017, the GDP grew by only 0.82%. In 2018, the GDP grew by 1.91%. And in 2019, the GDP grew by 2.27%. And last year, the GDP contracted by 1.92%. So in each of these years, none of the years did the GDP grow at a rate that is higher than the population growth rate of about 3%. So you can understand why people are saying that we are already in a recession. We've always been in a recession because as long as your GDP is growing at the rate that is lower than your population growth rate, the incidence of poverty will keep increasing, the level of desperation will keep increasing, and that's basically what's happening because your population, the number of people who are consuming what the additional goods that are producing, the additional number of people who are coming in to consume additional quantity of goods and they're producing are higher. So each person is getting a smaller ration. And that's what has happened over that past 6 years. So economy at maybe 3% like they projected for this year, which I doubt is feasible. And then next year, you are still going to have, if you take the same 8 years of the of the current government, it will be difficult for you to ascribe exceptional economic performance as one of the key success attributes of the current government.
Even though that, just like you said, the economic performance during this administration is not something that we can clap about. But of course, you would also know that the administration was faced with lower oil prices at a point, still faced with COVID. What else again happened in the last 6 years? Perhaps that are exogenous shocks. I think those are the two things that really comes to my mind. Are there some wins for this administration, even though you are giving them knocks for not a too impressive economic performance? Are there some wins? Are there some things that might have been done that perhaps also made the Nigerian economy show resilience in the last quarter of last year?
Well, Nancy, let me put it this way. I'm a student of leadership. And from my exposure in leadership, I know that leadership defines the success or failure of any organization. You could have a stimulating factor that will impact negatively on your organization, but it's the leadership that will navigate through those difficult periods. It is the quality of leadership that defines how you meander or how you maneuver or come out of difficult situations. There's no country that has not gone through difficulties. There is nothing about Nigeria that is peculiar. There's no environmental factor or external factor that has impacted on Nigeria, has not impacted on any other country in the world. I mean, Ghana, if you're honest, I was reading, I mean, all of us have been hearing that COVAX is presenting their first set of free COVID-19 vaccine to Ghana. So how come a neighboring country much smaller than Nigeria is now a country of attention to the world? There must be something they are doing that we're not doing. Because the problem we have in Africa is a lot of times we blame the rain or the sun or the mosquitoes or the rivers or the spirits are our forebearers for our problems. We don't ever sit down to look at what did we not do right. And I think if we sit down to look at what areas where we are failing, that we had oil prices collapse in 2016, and then we had COVID in 2019. It's enough for the weak economic performance we recorded in the past 6 years or thereabout. As a country, if you look at this country, Nancy, remember that agriculture accounts for about 26% of the GDP. Agriculture sector alone, the fact that it grew by 3.4% in the fourth quarter was what put the country out of economic recession. Look at
how about the ICT sector?
ICT grew by 14.95% and accounts for about 15.06% of the GDP. Remember that ICT used to account for less than 0.4% of the GDP. Why did ICT come up? Because laws were made, a strong regulation was established, a competent person to run that to manage that regulatory agency was put in place, and they built over that period. We have built an ICT sector that has now more than close to 100 million, 200 million subscribers, that has close to 100 million or more of data users, because the infrastructure we have built under a strong regulatory environment that did not, it wasn't just innovation and investment. Through that simple act, we brought about 3 companies that invested $285 million into the country. MTN, Econet, and Glo. They brought, I think Glo even came out with brought a higher amount when they got the second license because of policies. So in a single year, in a single first swoop, we got more than $500 million as direct investments to the country in the telecommunications sector. There are several other sectors that bode such strong opportunities. But because of what policies were done, we now have a sector that accounts for 15% of the GDP. That is still growing at about close to 15% growth rate at 14.95% in the fourth quarter. Nancy, we have done the same thing in the cement industry. We talk about cement Amanda, where it was blocked. Today, Nigeria is a net exporter of cement. What drove that? Policies. And that's why I talk about leadership is everything. Because leadership at those times came up with the appropriate policies that incentivize investment in the telecommunications sector, incentivize investment in the cement industry. We need to replicate that in other sectors where we have competitive advantage. If we do that, this economy won't be suffering because somebody has sneezed in Saudi Arabia or US, or that one infection has come and taken down countries that are growing at 2%. If you are growing at this economy go and look at Chinese economic growth rate. If China did not contract, China did not go into recession because Chinese economy has been growing at close to 10%. And even
also, sorry to cut you short, Mr. Chukwu, since you talked about China, even during the lockdown, China was also still producing because most of the face masks that we were using was coming from China. In fact, I read a report that really made me stagger that China exported masks more than anything they did, or more than any other product in 2020. So you can imagine why China would not be in a recession or the economy did not contract. But very quickly before you go, and I want you to answer this in about 45 seconds, the Infraco story that we saw, I think about 2 weeks ago, there's an update on it as the Central Bank of Nigeria and its funding partners, AFC, as well as NSIA, they are already seeking to hire an asset manager for new Infraco. What do you think? I saw the ad. Saw the advert.
Yes, the
in
concept
Financial
is good.
Times.
Yes, Nancy, which is where reference to what I said earlier. We recruited Dr. Ndukwe to run NCC, Nigerian Communication Commission then, and he did a great job. In the course of setting up the Infraco, the infrastructure company, it's also necessary we get the most competent person to run it. We have somebody that is strong that is running the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. We need to put the round pegs in round holes. We've sent to Dr. Kojiwala to run the World Trade Organization. That's what Nigeria should be doing. Let's recruit the best people, empower them, enable them to run the thing. The concept of Infraco is wonderful. If eventually they raise 15 trillion naira they want to raise, and they also get co-funding partners, and the government identify and come up with appropriate legal and framework, legal and commercial framework for the infrastructure that the Infraco will invest in, so that over time they will recover their money. And then we must set up appropriate legal clauses that will make it difficult for incoming government to revoke some of those concessions. Certainly, we're going to have the impact of that setup in our infrastructure development in the next 10 years.
Okay, just let me also say this, that PwC, McKinsey, KPMG are seeking deal advisor roles while Ukuri, Lajadu, and Kenna Partners appointed as legal advisors. We'll continue to follow this because perhaps this may just be a game changer to solve the infrastructural deficit problem in Nigeria. Let's see what happens. Thank you, Mr. Chukwu, for being on the show today. Thank you for watching our video. Please hit the subscribe button below turn on post notification to follow all our updates.